to Ukraine next, where Russia has launched its latest series of airstrikes on the capital, Kyiv. Ukrainian officials say dozens of Russian drones, cruise and ballistic missiles have damaged homes and infrastructure. The Air Force says it shot down most of them. Let's get more from DW correspondent Nick Connolly in the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv. Nick, what more can you tell us about these attacks on Kyiv this morning?
It was a very loud start to this working week in Kyiv. Around 5 a.m. local time, you had basically 20-30 minutes of very loud anti-aircraft fire here in downtown Kyiv. Even in a place like this, which is basically the best protected in the whole country, you could hear windows not only shaking, but you also had outgoing fire, those kind of interceptor missiles. You could even hear the engines of those missiles. Other people reported hearing missiles coming in, just hearing them fly past and not just the explosions. It seems like Ukraine's air defenses did their job pretty well. For the most part, most of the damage reported has been from bits of debris from intercepted missiles. But the fact that basically Ukraine is having to intercept these missiles over the city, over civilian infrastructure, over people's homes, quite close to the center of Ukraine's political life, is obviously a sign of the fact that there just isn't enough of these systems to go around. So they're having to do it here rather than somewhere in the fields outside the city. It is less of a kind of extreme attack. There were fewer missiles launched than last week, when you had probably one of the biggest missile attacks since this war has begun. This time around, there have been reports that some of these North Korean ballistic missiles have also been used that have been said to be slightly less accurate and easier to shoot down than their Russian equivalents. But it is also the first day of school here after the summer holidays, and we've had reports of schools damaged, windows knocked out, and for the people who have chosen to stay, Ukrainians have the option, women and children, to leave the country and have relatively easy routes to Europe. It is a reminder that even here in the capital, even in Kyiv, there is no safety, there is no guarantee. And often enough with these attacks, you just don't have the time to get to safety. You don't have the time to get to a metro station or get to a cellar because, these missiles come in so fast that basically, at best, you can run to your bathroom or somewhere behind a second wall and hope that it just goes past you.
DW's Nick Connolly in Kyiv. Thanks very much for that update. Now, these latest attacks on the Ukrainian capital come after Russian airstrikes in the city of Kharkiv in the east of the country left dozens injured and infrastructure damaged at the weekend.
This is the moment when Russian missiles struck Kharkiv. A shopping center and a sports complex were among the buildings hit. Ukrainian officials say the attack injured dozens of civilians, including 5 children, and some were rescued from the rubble.
It's all civilian infrastructure. This shopping center was full of people during the day. There were 2 hits. According to preliminary information, there were 4 strikes on the Palace of Sports in the city of Kharkiv, and civilians were injured.
The Kharkiv attack prompted Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to again implore allies to allow Kyiv to fire Western-supplied missiles deeper into Russian territory to stop Moscow's attacks at their origins.
To coerce Russia into peace, for them to move from dishonest rhetoric about talks to steps required to end the war, to rid our land from occupation and occupiers, we also need potent instruments.
The attack in Kharkiv came after Ukraine launched a wave of overnight drone attacks against targets in Russia, which Russian officials say ignited fires at a Moscow oil refinery and a power station. Ukraine has not commented on the claims. In recent months, Kyiv's forces have stepped up attacks, retaliating for repeated strikes like this one.
Right, let's get more on this with DW Russia analyst Konstantin Eget joining us from Vilnius. Konstantin, good to see you. How big would you say was the Ukrainian drone attack on Russia over the weekend, and what do we know about the damage?
Biresh, good to see you too. what we do know is that three oil refineries or oil processing plants and one sort of energy site were hit during this night and early morning by the Ukrainian forces, Ukrainian drones mostly. There is basically not a lot of detail, but quite a lot of videos. And one actually struck me because it is a Ukrainian drone strike on an oil processing plant, on a refinery in southeast Moscow, not very far from the place where I lived before in my previous life. And it stuns me that you hear gunfire, like automatic submachine gun fire on the drone, and then the drone actually landing or hitting the refinery. It is very much Moscow, and it is a very rare strike on the Russian capital, which, of course, is a potent thing in terms of bringing the reality of war close to the Russians' mind, I would say.
The governor of the Russian Belgorod region that's on the border said Ukrainian shelling hit the main city center there this morning. Do you know more about this attack and if there have been any reactions to this in Russia?
Well, the Russian government and Russian state media, and there is not much left but the state media in Russia, try to basically not to report too much about what happens in Belgorod. If you look at the Russian social media, it seems like there is a very significant destruction in Belgorod. The only claim that the authorities there stated publicly is that a kindergarten was hit at night, but there are no casualties, just the building of the kindergarten. It has to be verified, like most of information during this war. But what Russian social media are saying is that actually the situation in Belgorod is much worse than the one reported by the official media and by the officials. Lots of people are leaving the city, so the war there is pretty much now a daily, if not hourly, reality.
We'll leave it there for the moment, but thanks so much for joining us today. DW Russia analyst Konstantin Eggert speaking to us from Vilnius. Thanks so much.
Thank you.